Welcome to another episode of Stories of a Volunteeraholic. My name is Amy Tiemeyer. I'm the author and founder of Stories of a Volunteeraholic. And I want to talk today about business, which is, it's not just the business of volunteering, but also just business in general. And for me personally, I'm hoping to live my life without ever being the founder of a nonprofit. And that might seem very counterintuitive for coming from a person who loves to volunteer within and outside of nonprofits. When I decided to write my book, Stories of a Volunteeraholic, it really was to try to inspire people to get involved in their communities, to share with me their volunteer stories. And so when I decided what type of business for sales of the book, for different things like that, it's an LLC, because I didn't want my nonprofit to take money from other nonprofits. And I just needed a vehicle in which for banking, for tax purposes, and different things like that. I would also love, I've done a lot of speaking, but do more speaking and have it funnel through Volunteeraholic LLC, so that at the end of the day, or at the end of each year, I'll be able to donate to the nonprofits that I love and believe in. And I wanted to create a vehicle that, even though I am not motivated or even truly ambitious about money, that I'm also still business minded. Those who know me know I have a bit of a banking background, and I like the idea of being able to utilize any funds that do come my way in dynamic ways. If I have my own nonprofit, then I have to have a board. I have to have a specific scope for what I'm doing and where my money's going and different things. These are real critical to nonprofits, and they're important. A lot of people will get kind of frustrated that, this nonprofit doesn't include me because, like in the veteran space, a lot of nonprofits are either pre or post 9/11 veterans, or they're combat veterans, or they're veterans of this or veterans of that. And I understand that, and I understand wanting inclusion, but when your scope is so big, oftentimes you don't have the ability to be super impactful. And so I actually like it when nonprofits are really, they know what their scope is. And I'll use Wear Blue, Run to Remember. And if you guys remember Sarah coming on my podcast, it is a running community. Their goal is to get families of the fallen involved in running. You heal through pounding the pavement, through community and different things like that. I love that. They're not trying to feed a gazillion people or do a ton, but they have one niche, and it is really impactful to the people that they're serving. And because they have dialed it into a certain way, it allows for them to fundraise and to do their things. And I can come alongside them and support them. And I have friends that don't support them because that's not their niche. And it's okay. I also feel like when we can collaborate, when we can use the Travis Manion Foundation and Wear Blue and MVP and Wounded Warrior Project and do dynamic things together, that builds community. Rather than going, here, this is what you're doing wrong, and this is what you're doing wrong, and this is what you're doing wrong. So I'm going to make a nonprofit of all these things. If we can collaborate, I got the kids portion because I'm with TMF. Wounded Warrior Project says I have this part of it, and Wear Blue goes, I have the physical fitness part, and I'm going to pair with Wounded Warrior on this and do this. That is what we need to show our society. The company I work with just did a big thing on finding your why, which everybody, Simon Sinek, thank you for that. I think that has always been a great thing to understand, is our own motivations. And so one of the things that over the years I've been able to drill down is my motivation is I want to help the people in front of me so that the people in front of me can help the people in front of them, and things can grow. I would love big impacts, but I feel like big impacts come from small impacts. And I think that however you choose to do business, whether you do choose to do a nonprofit, don't be afraid to share it with me. I'm not going to be a negative Nelly about it. I promise. I'll be a Sally Sunshine, and I will give you any advice that you ask me for, that you need, that I have. But I wanted to explain Stories of a Volunteeraholic and Amy Tiemeyer. We do not have a nonprofit. It is a for-profit, and the reason why is I want to actually be able to donate to other nonprofits, and I don't want to be taking any piece of the pie. Those are my motivations. And here again, I've asked in a lot of different episodes, but I'm going to ask again, if you have great stories of volunteering, definitely share with them. And if you remember from my last little podcast, I said, if you're an idea fairy, but you don't have, but you're not a logistics fairy or a follow-through fairy, then let's work together to get those other pieces, and let's do some dynamic things. And I also want to say, don't be afraid to fail. We hear fail forward, fail often, these things. It's for real, because if you don't do anything, you've never grown. And I have skinned my knees a lot of times and still move forward better. And your knees heal and you learn from it. And it's the greatest thing. I remember when I was volunteering with AUSA, I had said that, like, people are afraid to fail. And they're like, yes, because it's tied to their career. And I said, that's too bad. Because even though it could be tied to your career, if I fail in my job with metrics and different things, it is. But if I'm doing my level best, even in failure, it can help me grow. Stepping back, stepping over is still a part of your journey. And so in the world of volunteering, also remember, I encourage everybody to volunteer in a whole bunch of different spaces to find out. Like, you might have a belief that, hey, I'm going to love to volunteer with kindergartners. And then you go and you do that, and it is really more challenging, a lot more challenging, and a lot more frustrating than you had expected. Don't let that be the only way you volunteered. Volunteer then for the food bank. Volunteer then at Wear Blue. Volunteer then in schools reading books, like in the library. There could be, when you find your fit, you're going to be poured into. And not just that, you're going to be so much more effective. People are going to see the joy that you exude, and they're going to want to have a piece of that. And you're going to want to give that piece to them. Because it all ties back to, this is what makes better people. Better people help other people become better people. And those are the motivations that we need to look for. And I think it's, a lot of times people will go, this is where I'm trying to get. I will help you. But I also will say this, I am not guaranteeing you're going to get where you want to get. As a volunteer and a community person, I'm going to work my hardest to help support you in getting there. But other people's expectations need to stay squarely with other people. And you need to learn how to, or know what our piece is. Pieces to show up, being the best version of ourselves, helping in any way that we can, and that will get the best versions. Like, to me, sometimes failures are the biggest learning lessons. And I will share one story that is in the book, Zombie Apocalypse 5K. And I won't go into the whole story, but as far as this is concerned, one of the things that we learned is, to get a stage, how expensive it is, the timing to bring it out. On a Zombie Apocalypse 5K, to me, it is very, actually, kind of period-esque, lack of better terming, to have one or two trucks, tailgates down, and that's where you have your stage. It actually makes a lot of sense for a zombie apocalypse. If it were, if it's a tried and true concert or 5K, different things like that, maybe needing a stage, but backs of trucks actually are better. And we wouldn't have known it until, we had a failure for the stage even showing up. And I was like, actually, this is way better. And I think the stage, if I remember correct, snafu happened on the second year. So the first year we had a stage, but the second year when we didn't, I was like, okay, we just saved like $1,000 because we don't have to rent a stage now. We just need 2 people with trucks, and my husband's got one, so I'm only ever going to need another one. And it was so much better. Now, your sound guy doesn't always feel your vibe because they're used to a stage. And there could be tabling and different things like that. So what you need to do is make sure when working with sound people, sound video people, is give them as much information as you can, as early as you can, along with your vision so they understand. Because you're talking chords and they want a great product too. You also, and I think when you're organizing different events or you're coming alongside events, understand most people, by and large, want everything to be successful. So even if they're saying you can't do that, you can't do that, you can't do that, they're coming from a place of trying to make sure that you have the highest quality event. And so what you need to do is, ask the questions why. Like, how could I do it? How can, if we did it this way, what would it take to? There's ways in which to challenge an idea that isn't just like an argument to just bouncing back and forth. We want to be able to get to where we're like this. And so there's give and take on both sides in order to get those areas really worked out. I also say nonprofit and business is very similar to shoes. There's a gazillion different types of shoes, from stilettos to combat boots, running shoes, Vibrams to, Hoka's, or however you say that one, New Balance, all of these different types. So how nonprofits are run, how businesses are run, are just the same way. They are very diverse, and understanding them helps. So I know this one is a little bit shorter than normal, but I just thought I would come to you with a little bit of business talk to showcase the stories of a volunteeraholic. So thank you again for joining me in my home.